All right, shalom to the hopeful elect. Call halal yom la, Allah hayanawa Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. All praises to our power Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, the God of the heavens and the earth, and the God of the 12 tribes of Israel, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans power, the God of Israel. Double honor be to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who have labored faithfully in his truth and are the true teachers of Israel today. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, the 144,000, the house of David. These are the brothers that's laboring on the four corners of the earth, laboring to make the calling of election sure. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect and to the Akim and Akwathim who listen and believe on Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. To you, I say shalom as well. So we're going to jump right into it. This article is from theguardian.com and it's dated August the 29th, 2020. And it's going into the comments of Toni Braxton. These are recent comments that she made in this publication. And as you can see the title, it says Toni Braxton. This is quoted, her from the article speaking, saying, "I regret not having more sex when I was younger." So the premise of the lesson is going to be from this article. Lord willing, I edify with some precepts. So it says the singer, who's 52, on discovering her talent, meeting Stevie Wonder, and the downside of her religious upbringing. So like many women in this culture, in the society, they believe that they, are religious, which, to be religious is just to follow, a set of practices, that are not in line with the Holy Scriptures. But our people come primarily out of Christianity because, they learned Christianity from the time that we were in chattel slavery. And one of the terms we use, is plantation Christianity. See, these are the origin and the epicenter of how our people have been taught to believe and to think. It comes from plantation Christianity, not the truth of the Bible. So, when you get into the article, it says, "I wouldn't say I was religious, but I am spiritual. I believe in a greater force. When I was 7, my family became very religious. We were Jehovah's Witnesses. We were Catholic. We tried everything before settling on United Methodist." And this sounds like the common story, which is the story of most Jakes here, in America, which is Babylon, around the world. Some form of Christianity, because Christianity in the book of Revelation, starting from Roman Catholicism on down to all the different denominations, Christianity is known as the false prophet in the Bible. So our people have been deceived by the false prophet. That's going back to plantation Christianity. So it says, "We tried everything before settling on a United Methodist. I asked my mom once what they were searching for, and she just replied, it was the 70s. The 70s were a very religious era. I thought a lot of people were looking for the right path." So in these comments, you see, this is a common, thing for Jake, is to be jumping in and out of these different churches. And that's in the scriptures. Here goes the book of my first precept, 2 Timothy 3 and 7. So the book of 2 Timothy 3 and 7, it reads, "Ever learning and never able to come into the knowledge of the truth." The reason why people are ever learning but never able to come into the knowledge of the truth is because they're under a spell. They're under a hex, from the devil, the so-called white man, the Edomites, have Jacob under a heavy delusion in a deep state of sleep, being spiritually dead, as it says in Proverbs 21 and 16. So the man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So our people remain amongst the dead because they lack understanding. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. These are some of the precepts, that our people have not known the Most High. They're Sodom's children because they're ever learning but never able to come into the knowledge of the truth. So they dibble dabble in different religions and belief structures, everything but the truth of the Bible, which is that, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the Israelites, and the Most High is coming back through his son to save his people, and the other nations are going into subjection. That the truth of the Bible is that the Most High and the Son have a Hebrew name because we are the Hebraic people. We are the Hebrew Israelites. We are the sons and daughters of Jacob. So that's the truth. So why is that important? I'm going to continue on this article and go down to the main point I wanted to get into. Because in this publication, this article, these are the words of Toni Braxton. It says, "I regret not having more sex when I was younger. I should have drank more. I should have partied more, smoked more. Even I think my religious upbringing stopped me doing a lot of things that I should have done. It's not a good look at the age I am now. The way it works is you do that stuff in your 20s and 30s, then in your 40s, you've earned enough to pay for the therapy." So see, that's the common theme and the common way of thinking of the so-called black woman and the Israelite woman in America and around the world today, is that you can go and live your life and live wild and free. And that later on in your life, like she said, in your 40s, you can pay for therapy after you've been running wild and free and dealing with man to man. And in the brother Ra'ad's video I watched today, he was speaking about that, making a great point about how women ride the cock carousel. They go from man to man to man to man, because that's what the culture promotes. Like Toni Braxton just said, in your 40s, you can get therapy, you can settle down. In your 30s and 40s, you can, get a husband after you've been with all these different men and you've been polluted and destroyed, which is what? Whoredom, according to the Bible. So when you look up whoredom in the blue letter, it's Hebrew word 2183, and it's Zanawan. So the word is Zanawan, Hebrew word 2183, and whoredom is adultery, fornication, and prostitution. And that's what we see clearly, here is that what's being spoken of is whoredom, which is adultery, a woman having sex with more than one man, fornication, illicit sex according to the Most High, and prostitution. Because what happens is our women, believe in these, Western ways of thinking. So they believe that they have the freedom, to live how they want to live, and that there's truly not any sort of repercussion for spiritually for living the way that they do, because they don't see a physical repercussion, but there's an emotional and spiritual repercussion for living wild and free, for being promiscuous, for living in promiscuity, for being a thought, as it's called in this culture. So here you have a 52-year-old woman saying that she wish and she regrets not having more sex and living, free when she was younger. She regrets that. So once again, those regrets come because the wine of Babylon, is such a great, such a great thing to our people and our women in particular. It's the wine of Babylon is what she regrets, which is living a life where, she had the freedom to just do what she want to do. Because that's the culture that you see. You see who? Aisha Curry, Steph Curry's wife, saying that she want more attention from men because the culture promotes that. That's the whole social media, culture that we live in today, reality TV. Gabrielle Union, she wrote a book where she was telling women, to have random sex in your 20s, then in your 30s, look for a husband. See, this is the mindset of the women in our culture. It don't stop there. Jada Pinkett Smith, this whole entanglement situation and her admitting to adultery, and she wasn't ashamed or ridiculed or given any negative press for that. So that continues on with what you see with women in the society. It goes on and on to this WAP culture. You know, we know what WAP means, but that's the culture. And that culture, once again, comes from our people ever learning, but never able to come into the knowledge of the truth. If they were rooted in the truth, then they wouldn't partake in all of these different wines. So the wine of Babylon, you know, that wine of being a whore, you know, a thought, you know, it's hard for the women not to partake in because it's profitable. There's women that's doing it, it's making a lot of money. You know, it gives you, you know, a lot of attention for men, etc. So that's why that wine is so hard for our women, you know, to resist. And Toni Braxton, a 50-plus-year-old woman, is even saying the same thing. So I'm going to get a quick precept just showing you that the wine of Babylon, how strong this wine is. You know, this wine will get you drunk off your ass and keep you in a state of delusion. That's how strong this wine is. So this is the book of Proverbs 23. And I'm going to start at verse 27. Proverbs 23 and 27. It reads, "For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit." So the ways of Babylon has been a ditch unto our people. We've become trapped by taking on the whorish ways of Babylon. When you read Mystery Babylon the Great, it's called the whore, the great whore, you know, who made all people fornicate with her. That means to take on the ways of Babylon, that the people of the world have taken on the ways, and most notably our people. So for a whore, which is the ways of Babylon, is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. And these strange women, you know, the strange woman is going specifically into, you know, taking on the persona of Babylon, you know, and that's becomes a narrow pit. Verse 28, Proverbs 23 and 28, "She also lieth in wait as for a prey, Babylon, and increaseth the transgressors among men." So the ways of this place, you know, which is the ways of this whore, is a ditch and a pit. And it says that, you know, the ways of Babylon increases transgressors among men. Because when you take on the ways of Babylon, then you're breaking all the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. The scriptures tell you that to commit sin is to be in transgression of the law. For sin is transgression of the law. So Babylon's ways, the scriptures tell you that you know, she frameth mischief by law. So that goes into the transgressors among men. Verse 29, Proverbs 23 and 29. "Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes?" So the question is being asked here, and it's going to be answered here in the next few lines. Proverbs 23 and 30. "They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed drink." And that's our people. That's what this article, what Toni Braxton was speaking about. Her being into all these different religions, growing up, and then becoming a Methodist. But her family, they were, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses, etc. That's the story of Jake growing up, you know, which is those that tarry long at the wine. And wine, and once again, is the philosophies, you know, the different religions, not the truth. They that go to seek mixed drink, because they start to mix up their drink. They take on so many different ways. They have no continuity and spiritual stability. They lack, you know, spiritual continuity and stability, because in all these philosophies, the truth is not in them. Proverbs 23 and 31, it says, "Look not thou upon the wine, the ways of the world, when it is red," because see, in the cup it looks good. The ways of Babylon, to the naked eye, it looks like it's righteous. It looks okay. It looks prosperous. When it giveth his color in the cup, when it moveth itself aright, at the last it biteth like a serpent and stingeth like an adder. So the ways of this place at the last will destroy you. But when you're in the midst of it, it don't seem so bad. But where it gets you at is at the last, you know. So the ways of this place will destroy you. Verse 33, Thine eyes shall behold strange women, which is Babylon, the ways of Babylon, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. I want to harp on that word perverse there, because when you look up that word perverse in verse 33 is Hebrew word 84:19, and that word perverse, it goes into being froward, backward, contrary, troublesome, perverted, unnatural, abnormal, wicked, and evil. So, your heart began to utter wicked, perverse, backward, unnatural things, which is what you see this woman, Toni Braxton, here saying, that she wished that she had more sex when she was younger. Those are perverse things, because if she was rooted in truth, she wouldn't make statements like that, especially not a woman of age. But that shows you that the stock culture, the wine of Babylon, has a strong, heavy, very, very heavy and demonic pull to our people, which is also in the book of Wisdom of Solomon. It speaks about that. It goes into how our how our people are under a heavy state of delusion. It gets into I want to remember how it's directly quoted, but it gets into how our people are under a spell. So this spell is the ways of Babylon. That's the spell that our people are under. So continuing on, going back to Proverbs 23. So those are the perverse things, because the scriptures tell you out of the mouth flows the abundance of the heart. So this is what's in the spirit of not only Toni Braxton, but the women of our culture. That's why I made those quotes, or spoke of those quotes by those different women, like Ayesha Curry, Gabrielle Union, Jada Pinkett Smith, etc. The list goes on and on. Now, in hearing these things, we have a specific title and duty that we're supposed to perform as the men of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And our specific title as the prophets is to prophesy. And one of the things we're commanded to do is prophesy against our women. So this is the book of Ezekiel 13:17. It reads, "Likewise, thou son of man, set thy face against the daughters of thy people, which prophesy out of their own heart, and prophesy thou against them." So we're commanded to prophesy against the women of our nation, and the women in general, but start with the women of our nation. Why is that? Because they prophesy out of their own heart. The scriptures say that the fear of my people are taught by the precepts of men. So the women believe in the things that are, the ways of the world by nature, being the weaker vessel, so they believe in the ways of the world. The men do too, but this is specifically speaking about the women, since this article is about Toni Braxton. So we clearly see that the women prophesy out of their own heart. And the scriptures just told us that they utter perverse things, and those perverse things is the wine of Babylon. The wine of Babylon has intoxicated, our women heavily. And that's, one of the major reasons why, the structure of the home, with the father being absent and the mother, not having the ability to raise the children properly and adequately. So they push and promote the ideological way of thinking, which is whoredom and, Western culture, which is all death. Black culture, which is all death. So we're commanded to prophesy against our women. And the reason why we're commanded to prophesy against our women is because they, by nature, they don't believe, nor do they, maintain spiritual integrity. They have to be taught, what's the right way, because their mothers and their grandmothers and the people in this culture have not, given them the true understanding of the purpose of a woman and what she should and shouldn't be doing and how she's supposed to conduct herself, etc. They're not being groomed, to be wives unto, spiritual men. They're groomed to be whores and to be thoughts and sluts, etc. So the proof of that is in the book of 1 Timothy 5 and 6, because our women live in pleasure. They live by the pleasures that Babylon, affords them. 1 Timothy 5:6. Here's the proof. But she that liveth in pleasure, which is our women today here in Babylon and the women around the world who have been given this freedom to do, what they will, to twerk, to live promiscuous, to show their body off, and to promote whoredom. Like this woman, Megan Thee Stallion, just got shot, and that was judgment from the Most High. Why? Because of the things that she promotes. 1 Timothy 5:6. There's more judgment coming to more women that promote this. The stars of heaven are going to fall. And that was a promise from the Most High. So the women have been highly exalted. And they're about to fall. Because it's going to be the judgment. So the judgment that she just received from getting shot, the judgment is going to get worse and worse to these women. Especially the women that are, so-called celebrities. 1 Timothy 5:6. Down to the everyday woman. 1 Timothy 5:6, but she that liveth in pleasure, because all the women in the society live in pleasure, because Babylon affords them great pleasure under the laws and under the, the push of feminism and women's rights, etc. But she that liveth in pleasure, the pleasures of Babylon, is dead while she liveth, because she's not spiritual. So the women's minds have to be cultivated, and their spirits have to be cultivated in righteousness, which is saturated with the truth. If you're not, taking on the truth, and coming back to order, etc., then you're dead, really. You're dead to the Most High. Yeah, you're living, but you're dead. You're the walking dead. Why is that important? Because our women are, once again, given over to their pleasures, which the pleasures of this place is whoredom. And the proof of that is in the book of Ezekiel 16. The pleasures of this place, Babylon, is whoredom. That's why Babylon is known as the great whore. Ezekiel 16, starting at verse 35, and it reads, Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. So our women, who the Bible told us to prophesy against, because they speak out of their own heart, it says, Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Now, most women would probably hear that and think contrary, that the scriptures, a natural woman, a woman that don't know the truth, nor believe in the truth, would think that that's not true according to the Bible, that the Most High, does not see them as whores. Here's the book of Amos 7 and verse 17, and it reads, Thus saith the Lord, quick precept, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, thy wife shall be an harlot in the city. So the scriptures tell us, Amos 7 and 17, our wives will be harlots in the city. This is part of the curse. The curses that's on us pertaining to Deuteronomy 28. And it says, And thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by line, and thou shalt die in a polluted land. That polluted land is America. And Israel, which the people of the Most High, shall surely go into captivity for his land. Because we were run out of our land in 70 AD, and we've been in captivity after captivity. So, the main point, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, thy wife shall be a harlot in the city. Amos 7 and 17. So, our women are harlots. Let's go back to Ezekiel 16 and 35. Ezekiel 16 and 35, and it reads, Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord, starting with the daughters of Zion. So, here's the word of the Lord to the harlots, to the women of our nation who won't repent. Ezekiel 16 and 36, Thus saith the Lord power, because thy filthiness was poured out, because our women's filthiness is being poured out. And what is that? We're seeing it day by day. This thought culture, this harlot culture, And when you look up harlot, it basically is the same as the word, going into the word whoredom. Harlot is Hebrew word H2181, and it's zanah. It means harlot or whore, to commit adultery, prostitution, or fornication. So when it says, hear this word, or harlot, speaking about our women, because they are, all of these things. Sexually promiscuous, which makes you a prostitute, a harlot, a whore, and, to be in violation of committing adultery. So continuing on, Ezekiel 16:36, thus saith the Lord power, because thy filthiness was poured out, because our women's wickedness is so heavy on the earth. A simple article like this proves it. Now, I couldn't be too explicit with showing more pictures and going into, more quotes, because the videos can be taken down, etc. It says, and thy nakedness discovered through thy whoredoms with thy lovers and with all the idols of thy abominations, and by the blood of the children which thou didst give unto them. Verse 37, behold, therefore I will gather all thy lovers with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all of them that thou hast loved, and all of them that thou hast hated, and will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. And the scriptures speak about, this nakedness and this shame of our women being seen. As Micah 7:10 says, then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her. So quick precept to that. So the shame of our women is going to be shown heavily, and heavy judgment is going to go down. And to the women that's going to repent, then those are going to be the ones that's going to be given salvation. But the vast majority of our women are going to be put to death, because there's a lot more women on the planet than men. So it says in verse 37, it says that they may see all thy nakedness. Verse 38, and I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged, and I will give thee blood and fury and jealousy. The Most High is going to give you your own blood, which is allow these women to get put to death. So how does that line up? I got one more precept, just going into showing how this all lines up with the article like this. The idealism, that our women live by. They live by, the ideas and the ways of Babylon, not of righteousness. Now, here's my last precept. I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah. And start at verse Isaiah 3:16. And it reads, moreover, the Lord Yahweh saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and missing as they go, making a tingling with their feet. So it goes into our women being haughty. It says, therefore the Lord will smite thee with the scab, the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord Yahweh will discover their secret parts, which means he's going to expose them. In that day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tingling ornaments and their feet, about their feet and their calls and their round tires like the moon, the chains and the bracelets and mufflers, the bonnets and the ornaments of the leg and the headbands and the tablets and the earrings, the rings and nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel and the mantles and the wimples and the crisping pans. So this is going to be the fall of the woman. And that fall is going to be precipitated by the time of Jacob's trouble, because Isaiah 4:1 speaks of how 7 women are going to fall, or 7 women we're going to take hold of every man, every righteous man, that is, every man of the Lord, every man of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. It says the glasses and the fine linen and the hoods and the veils, all the things that make a woman beautiful. Most High say he's going to take these things. Now, why would he say that? Verse 24, we're almost there. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. You're going to see in this day, there's going to be a lot more women that smell. Hell, there's women now that smell. How much more then? And instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well-set hair, baldness. And we see that already. Our women have a lot of problems. Start with the Judite woman, with the hair. That's a curse unto them. And instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. So that's what we're seeing. This is going to be the fall of the woman. Now, why is it important? Verse 26 gets to the point. And her gates, which is the women, the places where they live, their habitation, and her gates shall lament and mourn. All the women, are going to lament and mourn. Why is that? And she, being desolate, shall sit upon the ground, because she's going to fall. That power that she's been given pertaining to, the scripture saying that, You know, a woman shall compass a man. You know, that power is going to be taken away. So when Esau fall, so does the unrepentant, you know, Israelite woman. She's going to fall as well. So I hope that was edifying to the hopeful elect. Call Allah Yamla, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rechakodash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, the true teachers of Israel today. Peace and blessings, Habayath Madawadah, to the house of David. You know, the brothers laboring to make their call of election sure. To the listeners, the brothers and sisters that listen and believe on Yahweh Shem Yahushua. To you, I say Shalom as well. Shalom.
Escucha